A little over a year ago, I made a promise. A promise to see and review what came so long ago. What changed the face of an era, the first of its kind. And now, 25 years later, the icon that we all came to love has shown her face for the last time. For now. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Young Dad Gaming Reviews, the series where I review, recount, and reminisce the games that I grew up on, and missed out on, and which ones my kids will be growing up on, and which ones should be avoided for now due to extreme violence, suggestive themes, and or because they plain suck. Next up, and lastly, in this year-long adventure I set for myself 13 months ago, The Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support my channel. Alright, let's get into it. Lara and our good old boy Jonah have continued their newfound quest of killing each and every member and unit of Trinity, the evil faction that killed Lara's parents, or just her father. I really can't remember. Whilst looking for the leader of Trinity, Lara stumbles upon their latest search, a Mayan dagger. Determined to get it before Trinity, Lara races against them and manages to snatch it from under their nose, but little does Lara realize this was a terrible idea. This actually starts the apocalypse. Yep, no joke. Through Lara's actions, she unwittingly causes the death of thousands of innocents. Pretty deep shit. Even Jonah, after all they've been through together, can't even find the strength to deal with her and her constant fixation on being the best. The dagger was stolen by Pedro Dominguez, the head of the Trinity's highest order. Pedro is aware of the consequences of Lara's doing, so he sends his team on a quest to Paititi, a hidden Mayan village, to fix Lara's mistake. Hellbent on fixing her wrongs, Lara sets out with the hesitant Jonah to Peru. There's even a section where Lara has a flashback to her childhood, which is only entertaining for one real reason. Can I roll? Can I please? Babe, her parents just look out the window like, I wonder what Lara's doing. The story in Shadow is quite a good story, especially after the boring slog we had in Rise of the Tomb Raider, so I'm not going to spoil it for you. By now, we're familiar with the style of the Survivor series, and if you weren't a fan of the first one, you won't be a fan of this one either. Shadow does a balanced blend of gameplay styles from Tomb Raider 2013, and some of the item collecting and item crafting from Rise, but not too much that it becomes a chore to create items. In fact, you tend to have a pretty high amount of items to use and craft throughout the whole campaign. Shadow doesn't have a high focus on combat that the previous entries did. Instead, there's more of a focus on traversal and puzzle solving, with action being reserved for the latter half of the game. Like, honestly, you have minor firefights in the beginning of the game, but tend to not fight any human enemies until a good 70% into the game. Some of the most entertaining moments in this game, much like Tomb Raider Underworld, is the massive moving platforms that you have to maneuver around. Also, not to forget the action set pieces.
Got to be more careful. Oh, shit! Can't stay here. It's giving way.
There's really not much I can say about the gameplay that we don't already know. There's a leveling up system as well as a skill tree with some pretty decent perks you can unlock, as well as unlocking specific perks by completing challenge tombs, including my new favorite, the Eagle's Talon, where Lara hides up on a tree branch and uses her rope arrow to snag an enemy and kill him, leaving him tied up on the tree branch, out of sight. Very Arkham Knight. Also, the very first perk I purchased in this game was the Serpent Strike, a perk that lets you take out enemies without alerting their teammates. I've heard that the stealth in this one was as garbage as Rise's stealth, so I wasn't taking that chance. Actually, because I purchased the stealth perk immediately, the stealth fights were way more fun. In fact, Shadow has a huge emphasis on stealth, making Lara feel more like Rambo from First Blood. And eventually like Rambo from First Blood Part 2. Lara can chain stealth kills and poison enemies with hallucinogenic arrows. The stealth in this game, as long as you have the perk, is quite fun, and it sucks because, as I mentioned earlier, you don't really fight anything until the last part of the game, and by then most of the stealth is removed except for one forced stealth section, which was honestly pretty ass. I again had some glitches, but none as frequent as Rise. Lara now has a currency that she can spend on purchasing items such as clothing, which gives you outfit bonuses, weapon accessories, crafting items, and weapons themselves. Like, for instance, I bought a MAC-10 from a little old Mayan lady. Sounds normal, right? Shadow the Tomb Raider might actually be one of the best looking games on the PS4. They really pushed this game to its absolute limits with huge set pieces and towns bustling with life, which, when the apocalypse comes, feels more weighted as you remember the individuals you had just walked past and spoke to. The lighting effects are spectacular and the character designs are well done, although when you see a character who's not exactly a main character, you can really tell. Once again, we have all returning voice actors, but the biggest standout here, some incredible acting that blew me away, was Earl Balin as Jonah. Starting out as just a caricature of Polynesian Islander descent in the first game, to being the humanity of Lara's life, he has some of the best lines in the game, including the scene where he calls out Lara on her mistakes.
I failed. Worse.
What do you mean?
Dominguez. He has the dagger. I lost it. After everything that my father went through, I gave Trinity exactly what they wanted. He'll use the box and the knife to remake the world.
To remake it into what?
I don't know, he thinks he can rid it of sin and weakness. A man like that, we have to stop him. It's all my fault.
We'll figure it out, okay? I promise.
No. We have to get to the hidden city before Trinity. We have to find the silver box.
Okay, but first, we're gonna help these people get to safety, and then we'll go after the box.
No one is safe! Not if he gets the box first! I have to go! I'm the only one!
You're the only one that can what? You don't know that you caused all this, Lara! Not everything is about you! These people need us here. We can do good now! Besides, what do we gotta go on? A riddle? We're gonna need more than pink fish and silver crowns to get to the hidden city.
This scene gave me chills, and Mr. Balin deserves an award for this alone. Camilla Luddington nails the role as Lara once again, but tends to get a bit annoying. My apologies, Miss Luddington, but whenever you press the survival vision mode, which you need to do a lot to find secrets and switches, Lara will remind the player what needs to be done over and over again. The music continues the orchestra style that the series is famous for, while adding a nice jungle theme, really adding to the orchestra being drowned out by its surroundings, a theme I mentioned back in Tomb Raider 2013. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is a fantastic game and an incredibly strong entry in the franchise, but there was one thing that kept bothering me, and that's the fact that Tomb Raider 2013 came out to battle against the Uncharted series, which took over as the pinnacle of action-adventure gaming back in 2007. Definitely a worthy contender for the throne, but it lost its footing in Rise of Tomb Raider by copying many of the themes and styles of Uncharted 2, and finally with Shadow of the Tomb Raider taking many themes and set pieces from Uncharted 3 and 4. The biggest being the flashback to Lara's childhood, as it honestly felt like it added nothing to the story. It has Lara as a child looking through a library full of artifacts that she's familiar with its history. Nathan Drake does the exact same thing 2 years earlier in 2016, but it feels better acted and more believable. In this game it feels forced, like, look how smart she's always been. Tomb Raider is an amazing franchise and can continue to be when it goes back to being itself. There's nothing wrong with puzzle platforming and obscure puzzles. In fact, throughout this past year of playing through the Tomb Raider franchise, I was excited to get to the Reboot trilogy and the Survivor trilogy, but as I did, I found myself missing the classics and reminiscing them more than any of the reboots. Overall, Shadow is a great entry to the franchise, but not a perfect one. I give it a solid 4 out of 5. The gameplay is tired at this point, but where it does shine in the combat gets, no pun intended, overshadowed by only being introduced in the last third of the game. As for games I would let my kids play, apart from there being a bit of harsh language here and there really isn't much that I would guard my kids from. In fact, the history of the Mayas and Incas that Lara goes through could even be a bit educational. I would gladly let my oldest son sit with me and watch me go through it. As for nostalgia value, technically there isn't any, but it does remind me of why I love and miss the classic Tomb Raider games by hitting all the right nostalgia feels and Easter eggs hidden to the old games. Except for the twin pistols. Honestly, why does Lara still not have her double pistols back? It's as iconic as she is. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment down below for games you'd like to see on this channel, hit the subscribe button and help me reach my goal of 1,000 subs, and ring that bell to be notified for future videos. Next up for this year, I'm planning on doing a few games strawberry flavored. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye-bye! You just remember what your old pal said. Boy, you got a friend.